All right, great day, great day, great day. It's me. Oh, my titties, wait a second. I'm back. Back doing my YouTubes. It's been a while. I had to recover from a procedure. Yeah, and I'm actually gonna talk about that later. But I'm folding the clothes, and I was debating on doing this topic, and here we are. Um, here we are. We're gonna talk about a couple of things. One in particular. And one in particular in specific, I think we should talk about. Well, what really prompted today's conversation is Tammy Roman had did an interview. In that interview, it was her, Candy Burris, Riley, and her daughter, and they were discussing because the daughter and her daughter brought it up. They ended up going into a discussion about how her girlfriend wasn't allowed to come to her graduation because her mom didn't want her there, and her mom was uncomfortable with it or with the situation because we'll go into her reason as to why. And what's crazy is a lot of people went in this uproar and went into talking about how people do a lot of jabs at her. Talking about, well, she works with queer people, she works with this people, she works with that people, and it's just disappointing. And it's crazy. I think maybe because I'm different, her comments didn't bother me none. So she gave her reasoning, and even if it don't make sense to you, it makes sense to her. And it's not stifling her and her daughter's relationship currently. So she says that, it's a thing called mental health. And she broke it down and she said, she doesn't understand what her daughter is navigating through. So she doesn't know how to receive it. She doesn't know how to love it, and she doesn't know how to but she's still processing or whatever. And she also said it's one of those things where it's like, and I think that's something parents got to think about, because they kind of threw this excuse. I was like, all right, well, cool. Well, how do I know that, if say for instance graduation today, this girl is there today, and forever she's a part of this memory, and then y'all break up, and now even though y'all are broken up, she's still attached to this memory. And I got it, but it's kind of like you gotta kind of have that same, aspect with the straight kids, if that makes sense. I can't remember if she said the girlfriend couldn't come around or not, but just in that particular for family functions or for family celebrations, she wasn't allowed to come around. So I guess that kind of makes sense. So for me, since everybody wants to give their opinion on what this lady's doing with her child, I don't find anything she said offensive. I think that she was very honest, and she never said she didn't love her daughter. She just said she didn't understand her daughter. And I don't like how we've gotten to this place, especially as gay people, where it's like the moment someone disagrees or doesn't understand or doesn't want to process, it turns into the word hate. That lady don't say she never said she disliked the girl. She never said she disliked and I point blank, like when I was watching the video, what she wanted to say but she didn't want to say it because it wasn't nobody's business, was that she don't trust the girl. And I think that's really what it is. I don't think it's the girlfriend in particular, it's the girlfriend. It's not the fact that she is the girlfriend, it's the fact that it's her that's the girlfriend. And it seemed like it was more to it that required more dialogue, but honestly, it was none of our business. I look at it like this. When it comes to Tami Roman, she's an entertainer to me. She's an entertainer, but I know she's also a real person once those cameras go off. Once she clocks out. Once she leaves the set, she's a regular person and I think we got to get out of that with entertainers. With entertainers, it's like people get so caught up and they idolize them so much to where it's like you're setting an example, you're setting a trend, you are someone that people look up to. No, and I think that's and it. Man, it's not that deep. I don't. She's entertaining to me. She's entertaining. I love seeing her on camera. I love her story. Watching how far she comes, how she's came. Because I don't like how she was done on basketball wise, point blank in the period. So I like her. I mean, I love her, but I just feel like people get so caught up in it turns into it's a her versus the whole LGBT community. Nah, baby, it's not her versus everybody. Like, I'm gonna be very honest with you. Like, my it. I think we have to understand when it comes to parents and acceptance. I had to go through this, and it didn't take long for me to understand. I never wanted my parents to accept it. I just wanted them to love me in spite of. I never wanted them to condone it. I just wanted them to love me in spite of. Excuse me, my nose. I wanted them to love me in spite of. That was it. I wasn't asking them to. I didn't want to bring. I didn't ask them to bring. I mean, it was about their comfortability as well. I didn't ask them about bringing anybody that was dating around. It wasn't that kind of situation. Like, it was just like it's like it and it's just, I think it's one of those things where you got to understand everybody has their journey, and a lot of the times when it comes to dealing with um our community and dealing with our parents, is understanding that a lot of the time the journey with them processing that is a personal journey. It's not a y'all journey, it's a them journey. um I know for a fact, um, my parents, their ideas of it were different. Um, my father was my father was a little more tolerant than my mother. I feel like she still personally has some issues with it, but I've learned that that's a her thing, not a Russell thing. You know, I've learned that at the end of the day, whether I'm gay or not, I'm still her son, and I have to move like I'm still her son. And I can't expect her to move like my mother if I'm not going to move like I'm her child. You know? My father, again, a lot more tolerant. My father's never tried to, and even our discussions, my dad's always said, I love you, you're my son. It's never been a deep discussion as to the who, what, when, where, whys. It's never been one of those things, well, this is what God says, and da 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 da. It was one of those things to where it was like it never became one of those things that he and I had to verbally tussle over or emotionally tussle over. It wasn't one of those things, and dealing with my dad taught me a lot. Dealing with different friends' parents taught me a lot, and I think it's one of those concepts to where they say, okay, well, it's easy to deal with it when it's not your child. Hell yeah, it is. It is. I think it's easier, and I hate it. I hate that it's like that, but that's what it is. It's sometimes it's easier to deal with something when it's not your child or when it's not in your face, as opposed to when it's in your face. When it's a stranger, you don't have expectations for a stranger. As a parent, I feel like every parent has that thing of what they want for their children, the marriage, the kids, all that great stuff, health wise, all that great stuff. They want all these different things for their kids, and I think it's also safe to say that when it comes to expectations, we as kids also have expectations for our parents. But I think it's one of those things to where we don't. One second. I think it's learning that we don't live. We represent our parents. We represent our families when we walk out that door. Our interactions with strangers, even though it's us, we still represent our name. But that does not mean we live for those particular people. Again, this is just a discussion. I feel like with Tami Roman, I think that there has to be more dialogues about this stuff. to maybe, and it has to be more dialogues. It has to be more conversations. And it has to be in a safe place to where a person is free to express themselves without the fear of, excuse me, still doing my gas from the procedure. Um, Without the fear of being attacked for being honest. Um, you got some people who don't get attacked for being rude and disrespectful, like your pastor. They don't get attacked when they get up in that pulpit and they say disparaging things about the LGBT community. No, you'll have your ass right. You'll have your ass right there, at the offering plate, giving that special pastoral offering with that special seed, and then you'll find your ass right up there front row that next Sunday morning, Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, wherever it is. You're gonna find yourself back at that church. So you get mad at you'll get mad at that person who you'll get mad at Tami Roman, but who's a stranger to you, who really didn't say nothing disparaging, but you'll still find your way back to that married man's bed. Or you'll still find yourself back in that relationship that where that man has abused you, taken advantage of you, abused your finances, abused you mentally, physically, emotionally. Yeah, but you'll still find your way back over there, but you'll cancel Tami Roman. Cancel that nigga. Just call it what it is, But I think that we have to, because I always took into consideration how, and when it comes to certain things, I take into consideration how it would affect my family, but I never let it turn into one of those things to where how it affected them mattered more than anything else. And it was like that for a while. And I'm gonna be very honest. I gotta correct that. For a while, it was always worried about how it affected them, what they thought. But it's like my dad is literally sitting there saying to me, you're still my son. My grandma is still saying, you're still my son. My grandson. I had a couple of family members that was like, but the typical first thing you hear is, what the Bible says. Like they got to give that disclaimer before they love you. Like God, I got to make sure I remind them what the word says before I continue to love them. But I mean, we all have our journeys. We all have our things that we have to navigate. And I think that it's already a struggle navigating through these emotions, these feelings, this thing that a lot of people don't have someone to connect to help them understand what they're navigating through. But to take on having to navigate your own, but then having to help your parents navigate their own, baby, that is a them journey, not a you journey. And my dad has not made my journey about him. And I'm grateful because I've come across some family members who have been selfish. A few people in my family who have, and friends of the family who made it about them and how they felt and their opinions. And I'm just sitting there like, but baby, you's a hoe. You's a ho-ho. A ho-ho-ho-ho. And you is really walking around talking about me and what I'm doing. Baby, you's a ho-ho. A ho-ho. And if we want to be completely honest, I could have exposed a lot of people. And a lot of people that were being sent to talk to me, or a lot of people who were supposed to, talk some sense into me, they dimpled and dabbled themselves. They just didn't know that I knew. I just knew how to mind my business. I mean, I'm going to mind my business, but it was one of those things where it's kind of like, just like it wasn't your place to be up in my face, and it wasn't my place to be up in yours. But it's just one of those things we got to understand is we get worried about the wrong stuff, and we'll fight the wrong people. Tami Roman didn't say nothing wrong. She was very honest, and she gave it from her perspective. And I'm pretty sure a lot of moms feel that way. So where sometimes I know sometimes our choices do affect our parents' mental health. You look at people who commit crimes, who go to jail and stuff like that. That affects their parents' mental health. You know, that's a process for them. You know, a lot of things that we do affect our parents. They do affect them. They do kind of, but it becomes a them journey. Not a, it comes a it's a them journey, not a us journey, because it's their job. There's their journey to process as a mom, as a dad, just like you have to process as the individual that is in it. Something to think about. But I just hate that just like as black gay people, you know, we become bullies, big ass bullies. Like we didn't like how we were being treated, but now that we have rights and we have voices, we have soapboxes to stand up on and voice our opinion. We have ears. Now it becomes being a bully. It's become one of those things to where it's like, you know, you become the oppressor, and I hate that. And I hate, like, I loved how T.S. Madison addressed it, and she gave her opinion. It was in love. She said what she was disappointed at, but then the other young lady, Cherry Bloom, just started going in, and then when she got on Mama D, she started going into Mama D and attacking her and throwing words around. And it's kind of just like, I think what T.S. Madison does, she opens dialogues. And she finds not an opportunity, but when asked, she creates a space for a conversation. And she creates a space for a conversation. And she doesn't respond in hate. She responds with disappointment, which is fair. Then you have other people who respond with hate and anger and negativity, and it's kind of like, you doing what you didn't like that person doing. Why the hell are you doing it? It's just me. I would love. I remember when Kim Burrell, when they had that thing with Kim Burrell, and Kim Burrell got into it with. She had made her comment, and it turned into the LGBT. Because she said LGBT means let God be true quickly. Lying ass. Ooh, lying ass bad wig heifer. I just did what they did. But it's like the way that she did it, and it's crazy because she was supposed to be on the Ellen DeGeneres show because she was promoting a movie she was a part of. I can't remember which one it was. I want to say it was Sing or something like that. And in that opportunity, there was a chance for a dialogue to be created between both parties. And it could have been something to where a bridge could have been built between a bridge could have been built between the church and the LGBT community. And I remember I was watching my bishop preach, and he preached about how when Jesus died, it was restoring a connection and restoring that connection between him and man. And Jesus died. Jesus was that bridge. And it's crazy because the bridge has already been bled for. It's been built on the blood. It's been built on the sacrifice. That bridge was built with wood from the cross. And yet and still, people choose to not cross it. People just expect that you're supposed to just, it's a sin, and boom, it's done. No, you gotta be a bridge. Like, we are supposed to be a connector to guide people to God, to introduce them to God, not bash them and judge them. We're not supposed to give them a judgment day here in the flesh, but we do it so often. And we take, and it's crazy because somebody sat there and said, the ones that judge got to be judged, and you're going to be judged for judging. You ever sat there and it's like you're just siblings, you go to fuss at the younger sibling. Hi, how are you?
Hey, you're back up and running.
Okay.
Do you know who has the Smart Home Manager app on their phone?
I think my mother does.
Is she unavailable?
I can call her.
Cause I need her to run through a few things on the app for me.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, that was my tidbit for the day. So remember, we got to be a bridge. We got to be a bridge. In moments like this where an opinion is given, we got to remember that sometimes, you know, opinions do more damage than just loving on a person. Simple. Alright, well, I love you guys, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.